Hey everybody, what's up? Fabian for Liberty, FabianForLiberty.com. So the results are in. Barack Obama will continue to serve as President of the United States, and I have so many things to talk about with respect to this. I mean, clearly Barack Obama is a candidate of the establishment. If you for a little over 2 years, I've been producing videos and posting videos, and you've known that if you've been with me for some time, that I've repeatedly said my belief was Obama would win because the radicals have come too far to pull him out. I mean, anyone that denies that America is going down the path of socialism, state-sponsored capitalism, if you will, like China, is not dealing with just the reality of the situation. I mean, in just the last 4 years, you've had a government takeover of healthcare that's even expanded. I mean, even before Obamacare, you had government controlling over 30% of healthcare. But you have government now controlling the auto industry and owning some of the big car manufacturers here in America. And it just continues to expand. So the intervention by the state into the free market is at a higher level now than ever before. In fact, our markets are no longer free. Crony capitalism rules today. Under Obama, remember, the big banks, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, got over 10% bigger. So his policies favor the uber wealthy because in many ways. One of them, it's because of the stimulus and the Federal Reserve spending so much money. That money funnels up to the very top, who use that money to then buy assets. Now you see gold prices rallying in anticipation of Obama winning, and then today, as Obama has already won, because it's a clear signal that more debasement of the U.S. dollar will continue. Romney was a disastrous candidate. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I've ran as a Republican before. I've been a Ron Paul libertarian, really pretty much the last 10 years of my life. We don't have a candidate like Ron Paul. The Republican Party, and specifically Mitt Romney, was such a flip-flopper on every major issue. That's why every Republican that I would speak to, I'd say, this man is no different than George Bush, but he's even worse because you really don't even know where he stands. He's flip-flopped so many times. At least I have the respect for Obama, who basically tells you, I'm about wealth redistribution. Okay? I'll tell you, tyranny will continue its expansion. More important than ever, the individual is, it relies upon the individual. That's the only way we're going to turn this around, is to continue. I'm going to continue to do these videos. I'm going to continue to expose the tyranny, expose the corruption, and expose where this economy is headed. Now, short term, just the very fact that we have had no change in the so-called leadership of America, I think you'll continue to see this artificially induced recovery because of the cheap money. The cheap money now, Obama has a mandate of cheap money. The Federal Reserve has a mandate for continuing this injection of cheap money. And you could potentially see a boost continuing, let's say maybe 6 months to a year, maybe a little bit longer, in sectors like housing, stocks, potentially employment, picking up a little bit, only because the labor force is shrinking. But you have to remember, this is not a real recovery. This isn't a recovery based on manufacturing. This isn't a recovery based on savings. This is a recovery based on the debasement of the dollar. Eventually, that comes to an end. It's why, again, gold prices are rallying. Now, the last point I want to make is all the pundits that are basically talking about how the reason Republicans lost was because Romney was too radical, or that the Republicans have moved too far to the right. I pretty much laugh at this because the problem is that the Republicans have become too much like the Democrats. In the last debate, that was perfectly highlighted. Basically, these candidates were in perfect agreement over foreign policy and over things like, more government takeover of the education, which now government basically not only runs all education, they run all pretty much all housing as well when it comes to residential housing via Fannie and Freddie. So there is no difference. There is no candidate like a Ron Paul that is advocating real free market principles. I believe these will resonate. I mean, clearly you see For the first time ever, more Americans are independents than ever before. I believe those independents are really libertarians. In fact, there's a test, I think it's called the Nolan chart, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that if people take the test, the majority of the time, it comes back indicating that they are a libertarian on issues. But we have no libertarians. In fact, just the opposite. The libertarian voice is shut out of the conversation. Because the global elite that run America, the big mega banks, they want division. That's what they profit off. That's what they expect. That's what they are pushing us down. Last point I'd like to make regarding the Republican Party is I think this spells the potential end for the Republican Party. There will be a fight now amongst the party, whether it was the Tea Party that was hijacking the Republican Party, that it's too radical. I mean, people actually believe this stuff. And it's not really based on anything other than the left-wing pundits that are owned by the banking cartels that are influencing these people. These people have no spine. They have no real core belief system of issues. I tell you, I stand for the Bill of Rights, I stand for the Constitution, period. Anything else is unconstitutional, and basically you're committing open acts of treason. We don't have that fortitude when it comes to leadership anywhere remotely close to Washington, D.C. It's the end of the Republican Party, I believe, because they will try to become more like the Democrats, and they'll lose. Instead of becoming more of a libertarian, real conservative, like Robert Taft type party, they're becoming more like the progressive Republican Party. And that's just not going to work. I'm sorry, it's going to fail. That's why every Republican that I speak to, I try to tell them, get out of the parties. The parties are a disaster. I said a little bit earlier, too, that this spells for the expansion of tyranny. I definitely believe that. I mean, I don't believe that guns will be confiscated. I just think that they'll try to price ammunition and price guns out of the pocketbook of most Americans. They'll make it difficult for ammunition suppliers to be able to manufacture ammo. In fact, I remember when Obama won re-election, I had to wait 3 months to get 1,000 rounds for my AR-15. They just were sold out everywhere. Today will definitely be probably the biggest, not probably, it will be the biggest record sales for guns and ammo in the history of the world ever. People that are awake. I see all these people celebrating the Obama victory, and it somewhat saddens me because here are people who are literally cheerleading for somebody who's openly calling for the trampling of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, who has been more of a disaster on civil liberties than George Bush. And you have people cheering that. It's really remarkable. I mean, it shows you how far we've fallen. I wouldn't be able to do this video if I didn't end on the fact that morally as a people, I think we've had a lot of, we've fallen morally in a significant way. People like Gerald Celente talk about this often, as do I. We've completely removed ourselves from principles and values that our founders created this country upon. And that's bad for the country. It's bad for the republic. Ultimately, again, I want to just get, quick disclaimer.